Welcome back to the Safe Room with David Bruning and Cameron Guerra. Cameron, how long have you been in politics? How long have you been liking politics for?
Politics probably since around 2012, honestly, around
2012.
Yeah, around the Romney-Obama election, yeah.
Why did you get interested in it then?
Entering high school, that was a big part of it. Also, I just think it was an interesting election. I think there's always interesting elections that go on. And just generally, I think that was around when you start consciously just not taking the opinions of your parents, or you start developing your own ideas around there and like how you think the world should work and stuff like that. So yeah. I think it was
You want to think in your own way, because that's like 14. How old are you? 14, 13?
Probably 14, 13, yeah.
Around. That's a big
maybe 15
time.
Because it would have been freshman year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So who were you for? Obama, Mitt Romney?
I was for Obama. Literally lesser of the two evils in my mind. There's nothing. Basically, I haven't been happy with. I'm a leftist, but I haven't been happy with a Democratic candidate in a long, long time.
Really?
Yeah.
So even the 20 you can pick from this year, or next?
I am this 20 this year. I am fundamentally on the far left on that one. I'm probably for Bernie, and the biggest issue I care about is trade. Mm-hmm. Trade's the number one issue for me.
What does Bernie do to satisfy that?
In my opinion, he's more pro-worker as far as like trying to make sure we don't outsource jobs. Mm-hmm. And someone from the Midwest, from the Rust Belt, which I hate that term, but from the Great Lakes states,
Heartland of America.
Yeah, we've been hit really hard by that issue, and I think you could even look at 2016. That's why Trump won, because he ran on trade. He ran on I'm not going to outsource, because the Clintons were the biggest people for TPP and outsourcing jobs. I mean, Bill Clinton's the first person to really fundamentally pushing jobs out of our country. Mm-hmm. And the reason this matters is basically you're hurting people who already don't have economic opportunity, and you're getting rid of it. And I think it just exacerbates all of our other problems, being trade.
So what do you think the difference between Bernie's trade policies and Trump's are? Because Trump says American-made, American-employed.
Right.
He's trying to bring.
I agree with that stuff. The problem is like, for example, the United States government on the books is supposed to buy exclusively American-made stuff. It actually, in principle, doesn't work out being that. Basically, what happens is it's America and our allies, which our allies is basically everyone. Mm-hmm. And so, I wish he would come out and sign right day one. We're only doing American. We're only gonna have Chevys, Fords, and Dodges. Not Dodge anymore, because I think they're combined with Fiat now. So I don't know if they're based in Italy or here.
Yeah, that's neither here. We don't want
no foreign cars. But no, I think it's important. We need to take hits financially to make sure things are made here in America, and we've got to change our culture on buying stuff. Mm-hmm.
Because Walmart was the biggest forerunner in that. Previously, they had only American-made products, and now literally everything in Walmart is from China. Mm-hmm. So that's.
At some point, we have to just understand that this stuff matters, because to me, if something's the same price, or I'm willing to pay more for stuff made in this country, because there is a connection of this is going to help Joe Schmo in Cleveland, or some random person, even from Kentucky, And I think something that makes us different than a lot of places in the world is if you look economically, politically, and socially, as far as like size, we're very similar to the EU as far as like total population, income, and all that stuff. The reason the EU doesn't work and our American system works fundamentally is Europeans don't see themselves as Europeans. They see themselves as Germans, Greeks, and all that other stuff. We're here in America, we generally see each other as Americans fundamentally. Mm-hmm. And this stuff matters because, to me, I'm more than willing to help people, any American, even someone who I disagree with, or someone, who I don't completely, who doesn't necessarily have the same ideas or opinions as me. I think fundamentally I want them to do well in life.
Is that a hint of nationalism?
I don't know. I'm very much a nationalist.
Yeah.
I'm not going to act like I'm not a nationalist. Everything needs to be done here first, and we need to deal with domestic problems first. We get into stuff like the border control and stuff like that. I'm all for it. I think if I was a Dem in Congress, what I would say is to Trump, I'd go, you can have your wall. I'll help you with the wall and all that stuff, but we gotta have a bigger conversation on immigration. We have to talk about
The overall concept of it.
we
and
have,
how
to,
well
we have,
we're
to, we have
doing
to,
things
we have to
overall.
change it. We have to, basically, it's very hard to get in this country legally, which is bad. And we need to make it easier for people to get here legally and go into the American system legally. And then at some point, I'm not against kicking out people who are violent criminals, commit any crime. Even if you shoplift, in my opinion, I think it's okay if the government ships you home. There's a lot of peaceful people here who haven't done anything. And so we need to give them a better pathway to citizenship so they can pay their taxes, so they can do everything else, and so they can't mooch off our system,
So how do you feel about sanctuary cities then? If you want an easier legal immigration system, what do you think we can do with illegal immigrants who have been here for 20, 30 years? Or sanctuary cities?
And that's a good question. For those people, I would say we really need to look at the case. It's a case-by-case system. It's just like with refugees. I think you go through a very heavy screening process, and you say, okay, well, have they succumbed to the American culture? Have they tried to make themselves as American as you can get? And then if you say, oh, okay, they're able to do that, then I think, yeah, we have this discussion on, okay, for example, some of my Polish friends from back home and stuff who were children of immigrants and stuff, they very much grew up American, and stuff. And again, I don't think Trump's a racist for saying we need to close our border. Because, in my leftist view, if I want my state welfare, if I want my, to take care of everyone here, we have to limit the number of people coming in.
Yeah.
You can't have open borders.
You don't have unlimited money.
Right.
Yeah.
And you need to make sure it's being spent responsibly and stuff. And there's a lot of problems with our school system and other stuff that we need to fix, that we can't just if we have overflowing amounts of immigrants, And again, people will say I'm racist or, I'm not a true leftist if I have these opinions, but it's like, no, I'm for legal immigration. I want to make it easier. I want people to have a pathway to citizenship. Something else that I've seen from college standpoint is we have a quota. It's not an ethnic quota. It's a class quota as far as immigration goes. So if I'm an educated person from India, China, or somewhere else, it's easy for them to come over here, go to our schools, and do all that stuff, which I agree with. I'm good with. But like if you are a poor person, it's harder for you to come to this country.
It's very expensive.
And to me, in my opinion, I think our high-paying jobs should go to American-based people first. If we're like our doctors and lawyers and stuff like that, they should be coming from our domestic pool first, and making it easier for Americans to go into those fields and feel strong enough to really control their destiny in those fields.
So because those jobs are all merit-based, pretty much.
Yeah.
So aside from going to the top medical school, getting the top grades on the merit, you think should be, are you a U.S. citizen?
To an extent, yes. Because the American dream is starting to go away because people aren't able to move up through the class system, and that's the biggest problem. When we talk about the wealth disparity in this country, which is a big thing for me, it's not that I hate billionaires or people who have money. I'm good for you. I'm happy you earned that. Good for you. But the problem is 90% of our wealth is being created in, say, like is 90% of our wealth is going to the top 1%, top 10%, and that's a problem.
It's a very harsh statistic, but if you think about it, you need money to make money. Right?
That's true. Yeah. That's true. And again, I'm not saying cut it down to
no socialism is what you're fighting for. Or yes.
No, it depends what your definition of socialism is.
Equality.
Well, okay. Well, see, when we get into equality, that's not socialism. And we're talking more communism. If we're talking the political compass test, that's more communism and other actual equality stuff. Yeah. But if we're talking just like government programs, I am for a few more things. I mean, talk about the medical care for all. I'm not completely sold on it, even as someone on the left. I think it's not an issue right now that we can win, and I think it just makes it harder for people on the left to even have a chance in the election because people, it's too tough there. But some of the stuff, I think we need to change up the way we do prisons. I think we need to go back to government-ran prisons because I think I don't think people should be able to make money off of imprisoning people. I think the number one goal of prison should be rehabilitation over anything else. And so I think it's just one of those things. You, as a company, as a private business owner, you want return customers. So if you're in the prison business, you want return customers. So I think that's a problem we need to talk about and
and that
deal
goes
with
with policy reform too.
Yeah.
Not locking people up for so long just because of a misdemeanor crime.
Right, and exactly. And it's like what I think about is people our age, young men make dumb mistakes. And that's a problem. We have a problem where if you make one dumb mistake at our age or whatever, your life's over. It's hard to get a job in any industry if you have something on your record. And we need to change that, because if you've only made one mistake at 21 and you're still clean for 10 years, I think you should go off your record as far as for the jobs and stuff like that.
Rehabilitation fully.
Right.
Yeah.
And, we need to make sure those programs and stuff like that are better. And again, I'm not going to say that there aren't people who should be in prison, murderers, all that stuff, violent stuff. Yeah, they should be put away, locked up for a long time. But on some of the smaller stuff, I just think fundamentally on drugs and stuff like that, I think it's not a crime to do something to your own body that just affects you. That's just my view on it. But everyone has different opinions on that.
Yeah, very true. While we're talking about rehabilitation, how well versed are you in the social media landscape, would you say?
What, the social media landscape?
Yeah, keeping up on things that are happening in the social media realm.
A few times a day.
How do you think that we can go from people who get permanently banned from Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and rehabilitate them back into the public sphere?
See, and that's interesting, because I think personally, I look at Twitter as a public square. No one should be kicked out of the public square for saying the N-word, in my mind. The government should come in, the cops should not be able to stop you. We need the freedom, we need to trade the ideas. And so for Twitter, who you're holding in social media or Facebook, you have to treat it as if it's public space, and that you can't. When you kick Alex Jones off the internet, you're proving his point right. You're making him more legitimate, which I would agree with. That listen, he has every right to be on the internet as much as anyone else. And I just think banning people is just the most un-American thing. The biggest difference between us and Europe and other Western nations is that we fundamentally believe in freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is all we have at the end of the day, And so for me, generally, I would say yes. We need to start looking at them as public forums, and you shouldn't be banned from a public forum.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard topic because it's a private company, but if you're coming with the president who's tweeting 50 times a day.
Yeah, and it's important. It's important. And for example, there's some people on the left who want to ban Trump, and it's well, no, we need to know. He needs to be on there so I can understand what his policy and stuff
what he's thinking, exactly, yeah. It is hard, though, because, you have this massive millions and millions of users coming onto Twitter every day. It literally is the world's public forum.
Right.
It's hard to ban someone from that.
Yeah, and I just think you're just not a deep thinker when we talk about freedom of speech, right? I was so happy when my college's Republican, not conference, but organization won full freedom of speech on my college campus. I'm all for it. You need to have a trade of ideas on school campuses in general and other stuff because, and in my mind, if I'm going to be a leftist, right? If I'm going to truly be a leftist, I have to believe my ideas are going to beat your ideas in the public sphere, in the public exchange of ideas. Yeah. And so when I go, I'm going to ban your ideas, now your ideas even become more palatable. Now your ideas have more merit because now I'm so scared of your ideas that I can't beat it if it's a neutral ground. And that's wrong. I think we need to have the discussion and not call people names for having different opinions. Just because someone's more conservative than me doesn't mean they're racist or anything else like that. And there's just racist people out there, but they're not always. It's not just having different views doesn't make you racist, sexist, or anything else. And I hate that Twitter has started to play judge, jury, and executioner because they get it wrong all the time. And when they get it wrong, we have to deal with the consequences. The reason we have a court system, the reason we have these things set up is so when someone gets caught doing something they shouldn't, that we make sure it actually happens. We don't prejudge and stuff like that. And because I've never seen someone on Twitter actually apologize for being wrong.
It's very few and far between is when people actually apologize for being wrong, in both sides of the spectrum.
Yeah.
But one thing that Turning Point USA is really trying to do is open the public sphere, like you were talking about. Get both sides to debate. But what we see a lot is that people on the left don't want that. They don't want to come to our debates. They would rather sit there and protest and yell at us and scream at us. How do you think that can be solved?
Right.
Because on your college campus, Southern Illinois, is that what happens when the college Republicans come to town?
For the most part, it does not literally. I mean, my school's about 50-50. It's about the state of Illinois demographically being 60% white, about 15% black, and then there's probably 10% Hispanic population. But even politically, it's about 50-50. And so, from my view, there hasn't been any guff to them at all. I mean, because we have people who are trans on campus and stuff like that. And they live everyone just lives their lives, which I'm very happy about. But my experience is different because it's a smaller school. It's a more conservative school overall, if we're talking the scale of colleges. Because colleges do lean left. And that's a problem. You don't have the Chicago School of Economics anymore as far as like, when we talk about University of Chicago, which was the leading conservative economic school for the last millennia, basically. But for me, I think Turning Point USA is doing the right stuff as far as that goes. And one of the problems is I call myself alt-left, as in I care so much about the freedom of speech issue. I care so much about when comedians say jokes, it's just jokes. Everyone needs to get up and on with it. Mm-hmm. And just because you didn't find it funny doesn't mean someone else didn't find it funny. And when you say a joke about a controversial topic, you're making fun of how taboo that subject is to talk about. And my whole thing is there's no reason for us to ban anyone. It's just, I fundamentally hate when we ban people. I mean, and you talk about Ben Shapiro's, those people like that, they should be able to go talk to colleges. And there's a thing, so one of my friends goes to U of I, and a couple months ago, Crowder was going there. And basically, he had to back out, partially for his own reasons, but the biggest one is U of I didn't want to cover the security for him to go on campus. Okay. And my whole thing is, he shouldn't have to cover the security. The school should cover that security. And because I'm all for protest. I think protest is the most American thing you can do. So how we get our voice out there. But with the protest, you have to understand, like, we have to peacefully protest. And what peacefully protesting, what that means to me is, like, you can inconvenience someone. You don't get violent. You let everyone talk. And you don't throw anything. You don't do anything like that because now you're legitimizing their position. You're helping the enemy to an extent, in my view. And
that's true.
I just think it's good when we have people with different political views going places and talking in general, because I think the exchange of ideas is kind of dying with the rise of the internet, people going to their corners and just staying in their corners. And as someone who's on alt-left Twitter or, pseudo-neoliberal Twitter about twice a day or so, I'm just fuming about some stupid stuff, just some silliness that they said.
I mean, it's hard when you have these groups of people who only listen to their side, who don't want to even engage in social media with the other side. I mean, if you look at what happened at Berkeley with Milo Yiannopoulos, they almost burnt the entire place down to the ground. I've seen in recent years that type of violence has kind of gone away, because that was almost a year, 2 years ago, I think. That type of insane violence is really dying down, and we are getting some civilized debate. But you're right, the easiest way to destroy someone else's argument, destroy someone else's ideology, is by talking to them and proving your point, rather than pushing them so far away, making them not even possible to attend and to talk.
And fundamentally, as someone with my political views, I also get some of the right-wing stuff. What I mean by that is, I also get shut down, and people in my sphere also are called crazy socialists and stuff. But we need to have a conversation. We need to have the room. We have to sit down like this and discuss, because that's all we have at the end of the day. That's what makes us different than Europe. And I just think that's why I think debates are important. The more debates during the Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. When the election's on, the better. Debates need to be televised in prime time hours so people can get their views out, and they have to be issue-based debates. I don't like... One of my problems with the left is they've gone so far into identity politics. I don't care. For me, if you're going to say, there's no reason, if you're a woman, you shouldn't vote for Hillary Clinton because she's a woman. That's the dumbest reason to vote for someone. It's just because they look like you or they act like you. It should be about what they actually hold dear to themselves. For example, you see a little bit with CNN. They're pushing basically Kamala Harris, and the whole thing is, she's a black woman. She's a double minority. And it's well, Chief, I don't care. Her positions and stuff are pretty neoliberal or pretty down the center. And the biggest thing for me, my biggest red flag for her is she's backwards on white collar crime. So for me, if you're letting someone who forecloses on grandmas get away scotch-free, I can't take you seriously. You can't run as a black candidate and then also be this cop. And for me, I think white-collar crime is a very important issue no one really talks about, is when the economy crashes or when someone's intentionally rigged the system, they need to go away for a while. And because in my view, if I'm a CEO of a company, right, and basically we've had one of our worst years ever, I shouldn't be getting a raise. I failed, and I should be the one taking the cuts. I'm the one who should deal with the consequences because my actions had more to do with us failing than the person who's making the car bumper. Yeah. And so why is he getting laid off when I up? Sorry.
I mean, we saw that in 2008.
Yeah.
I mean, the bank crisis, you had these CEOs and executives pulling out with $1 million buyouts, $1 million deals just because they crashed the entire economy.
Yeah.
And no one got blamed for that.
Right.
None
and
of those people
Obama.
went to jail.
Obama was the one who went out there as well. That past is in the past and all that stuff. I was like, well, Bubba, every crime ever committed is in the past, but we still put people away for it. It's such a dumb view to me. Like, in my opinion, I just think, if you're going to be bankers, you're politicians too. I think if a politician gets caught up in a scandal, they need to go away for a while. That's why I'm happy when Rod Blagojevich in our state got caught.
Went to jail.
He went to jail for a long
Special
time.
term limits in Illinois.
But that's good to me. That's what should be happening.
Yeah.
Just because you're powerful and that person's your friend, you should hold them accountable. And I just think it doesn't matter what your political views are. Someone who's rigging the system needs to be put away. And I just don't think that's an issue people talk enough about. Yeah. And then with the current political climate, I just think we struggle to have discussions. And discussions are all we have at the end of the day. And I keep coming back to that point, but that's what we need to do. We need to discuss. We need to have a talk. We need to understand the other side without making them into the big enemy. Biggest problem I have with 2016 is the Dems have not learned their lesson. They have not looked at the data. 10 minutes after the closing election, I could tell you what happened. I could have told you, I've been yelling about it for the last 2 years, what happened. But people in the DNC don't understand what happened. Trump showed up and shook hands in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. Now, what are those jobs? What do those states have in common? They're all Rust Belt states. They're all 50-50 states. But fundamentally, they care about one issue more than anything else: jobs. And Trump went in there and said, "I'm gonna keep your job." And I know if I don't care about any other issue at that point.
Yeah.
If
all that matters is I'm getting my job.
Right, and I'm keeping my job.
Yeah.
I'm able to feed my kids and all that stuff. Another thing is I hate the narrative that Trump voters are racist. I know Trump voters. Half my family is Trump voters. None of them are racist. None of them. And those states, those aren't racist states. They have very big minority populations. Those are literally union worker states, is what I call them, right? And so for those states, it's not hard to look at what happened in 2016. She did not talk about trade. She did not talk about jobs. She didn't step foot in Wisconsin. All she had to do was show up to Madison. Yeah. She didn't exactly. And the arrogance of the Democrats when it comes to we can easily beat Trump. He says pee pee poo poo too much on national television. Like, what they don't realize is people like
they don't like the constant
unfiltered
presidential view. They like that.
They like him being
unfiltered. The personal filter. Yeah.
It makes it so much easier for him to actually get his point across.
So let me ask you something about. Oh no, go ahead.
One of the other ways Trump won is, this is a big one. I remember I was around. It was during the primaries, right? It came out that Obama talked at 8th grade level. Hillary talked to the 9th grade. It was like, I think Jeb was like 7th grade or whatever. But Trump talked at a 5th grade level. And everyone was making fun of him and going in, "Oh, look, dumb Trump." But it's like, the average American can read at 8th grade level. And so when you say, that's a 50 percentile. If you say, "I'm going to take it down to 5th grade level,"
that means almost everyone.
Everyone can understand what you're saying. Everyone can understand what you stand for and stuff. And again, I think he flip-flopped on the campaign trail. I don't think he's governed the way he was on the campaign trail personally.
I don't think almost any president has. But,
right.
Yeah.
No, that's true. But for me, it's easy. It's easy to understand how someone can go to Trump and look at him and go, better than the other two evils. And something else is, I think the biggest thing is he's an outsider. And again, I think personally he's very more establishment than we give him credit for, as far as I think he's governed like any establishment Republican, to the point where I think anything he's done so far, if it was done by Romney, Jeb, or even George Bush, it wouldn't be the internet wouldn't care. They wouldn't yell about it. They wouldn't be angry about it. He's governed basically, literally, like any other Republican. Yeah. And so I just think people overblow the angle of, oh, evil Trump, look what he's doing now. Oh, bad orange man. I just think it's not winnable.
I mean, that's an interesting point. A lot of people that I talk to hate lifelong politicians, and Trump was the exact opposite. He was the exact opposite of lifelong politician.
Right,
They don't like politicians like Bernie Sanders, who have been in office for 25 years and passed 0 bills.
Yeah, and what is I going to say? That's true. I would put, so for someone on the right, who I'd say someone I don't agree with all the time, but like a Rand Paul, also his bills don't get through all the time, but I think he does. I think you need to have people at the political fringes, because that's where the actual new ideas, new issues, and art developed. It's not developed in the Washington bubble. It's not developed there. And for me, the biggest thing is like, people think you have to be middle of the road to win middle America. You don't. You have to be on the right side on trade, on jobs, on stuff like that all the time. And the thing is the moderate Dems, like Hillary and stuff like that, are more extreme than Trump is on trade and the stuff that matters to these people. And so it's easy to see why she lost. And for me, I think with the Democratic primary, I'm happy it's 20 people. I'm happy it's bigger this time around. But to an extent, a lot of them just I don't care about. I don't care that the CNN's trying to push booty butt on me. Like, I don't. Oh, he's gay. Well, that's good. Good for him too. Good for him for like whatever he likes.
Identity politics.
I don't care though. I don't care.
It should be policy by policy.
It should be by policy. It should be about actual things that matter, not identity. I hate the identity stuff. You know, because I just think, for example, as a Black American, I mean, I think I shouldn't vote for like Kamala Harris or Cory Booker just because of the same color as me. That's, a deep thinker.
Here's the thing. I think that a lot of people in 2008 and 2012 voted because of that, especially in 2008. And I think a lot of people in 2016 voted for Hillary because she's a woman, like you said.
I think definitely with the Hillary stuff, I see that more. I think the reason Obama won is just because we have a cycle where it goes 8 years a Republican, 8 years a Democrat. It just, and part of it I think was just Republican fatigue from George W. Bush. I don't think he governed bad. I think he governed like any other Republican would. But I just think his polling numbers were down compared to compared to where he started. And so I just think it's one of those, the Dems had a big advantage there, and with 2016, I definitely think it was more identities were more pushed and stuff like that. And I just think it's with the Obama stuff is like, fundamentally, I think he's a better embodiment of what it is to be Black in America than Hillary was for what it means to be a woman in America. Yeah. And to an extent, I'm kind of happy I don't have to deal with Hillary on T-shirts all over the place. Well, yeah. And again, I didn't vote because the state doesn't matter. We know where the state was going.
Thanks for watching. If you liked the episode, visit TurningPoint.news and click on the ad to visit Turning Point USA's merch store. Tune in next time on The Safe Room.